Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by the Canadian Professional Sales Association. Please note that you will be able to ask all questions at the end of the session using the chat or question function. We'll try our best to answer all questions within our allotted time. You also have access to download the slide deck. Feel free to do so in the provided handout section in the bottom right corner of your dashboard. A recording will also be emailed to all attendees. Today's webinar will give you insight on 10 questions that you should ask about your sales compensation plan. Hosting today is David Monroe, a certified compensation professional, former director for a $1 billion tech company in Canada, and certified compensation professional. Now, without further ado, I'll hand it over to David to start.
Great, thanks, Rupalyn, and welcome everybody to the webinar, 10 questions, your compensation plan, okay? So we're going to talk about your sales compensation plan. So I'm going to start with a question for you. What year did you work the hardest? And what year did you make the most money? And I guess the most important question, were they the same year? So another question, did your pay plan ever drive you to behave differently? Maybe to do something you hadn't done before, something you weren't comfortable with? I think working under the right compensation plan can motivate you and get you to be more productive, while the wrong plan can cause you confusion and leave you less driven to produce results. So I think as a sales rep, it's up to you to make sure you fully understand the details of your pay structure before you sign an offer letter for another organization or a promotion within your own organization. So there's a lot to consider. We've gathered the facts for you. And we're going to come up with 10 questions near the end, but if you have questions throughout, just put them into the chat and we'll answer them at the end. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just say that you should, if you haven't already, you should go to the CPSA website. There's lots of tools on there. Let me just get back to there. Lots of tools, including the sales compensation guide, okay? So it's really easy to download. It's really easy to find sales compensation. Just go to the learning area and for members. And if you're not a member, you should consider becoming one because you get access to all this great information. And we're going to use some of those slides today and talk about some of them. Okay, so let's go through some basics just to get you grounded in what are some of the different compensation plans that are out there. And you'll be able to spot your compensation plan. And maybe if you're considering another opportunity within your organization or aside, you'll be able to better understand what they're offering. And then we'll get to those famous 10 questions, okay? Okay, so I'm going to go through about 4 or 5 different types of compensation plans. The first one, straight salary. We'll describe the plan. I'll talk about the pros and cons. So you might think, well, straight salary, what are we talking about, straight salary for? This is supposed to be sales incentive. Well, before we go to the next slide, let's just give it a moment to think, when could we use straight salary? So if you were being offered a job as a sales professional in a brand new line of business, the company is an established company, but they want you to open up a brand new line of business or a new area, new region, like in a new province or new city, you may not sell anything for the first little while. Depending on the organization, that could be a week or two, or maybe it'd be a month or two before you start selling anything. So you may negotiate a straight salary at the beginning to say, hey, while I'm learning, while I'm being trained, while I'm doing this or that, I want to make sure I still get paid for my time, even though I won't be selling anything in the first little while. Okay, so that's probably the most common time you'd use a straight salary. Some of the pros, it's very simple. You sign the offer letter, it tells you how much you're going to make per week, per month, and you know that's it. But it's not very motivational, so it's probably more of a temporary thing than anything else. Some organizations might do straight salary. You may be in a sales position at a certain organization, like a not-for-profit maybe, is more aligned with a straight salary. You may work in a store. I mean, another example I heard is, some organizations like to differentiate themselves, focus on customer satisfaction. Our associates, they don't get paid commission. They're there to help you make the best decision about what product or service we can offer you. So some organizations do pay straight salary even for a sales role, but traditionally most companies use sales base salary plus commission. Here's the question for you. If you went to a bank and you sought out a financial advisor, would you want them being paid commission or straight salary? Banks have been in the paper the last year or so about upselling and selling different products or selling their favorite products. When you may be thinking you're getting independent financial advice. So everybody encourages people working with financial advisors to ask the financial advisor, how are you getting compensated? How are you getting paid? So you may want to go for a straight salary, or you may want to, understand how they're paid. Okay, so that's straight salary, not very common, but occasionally it can work and be used. Most common is salary and commission. And the pros obviously are greater incentive. There's a prize if you sell something, and there's usually more money the more you sell. So your performance is rewarded financially. And the cons, some of the cons would be just the lows when you don't sell something. So the highs are really high, and they can be great, and they can be rewarding. Intrinsically, they can be rewarding. Financially, they can be rewarding. But the lows can be a bit tough to go through, both emotionally as well as financially, when you have to start leaning on other ways to get money to pay for the bills, right? So that's salary and commission. Now, I'm going to introduce another website on the CPSA website. Another part of it shows there's available 2017 CPSA compensation report for sales professionals. So in here, there's all kinds of information about different parts of compensation, what's going on in Canada. It's a great report. It's done with Mercer, a big HR firm. I like this report. It's Canadian. So CPSA has done a great job with that. It gives you a lot of averages. And on average, the most common sales plan is 67% base salary, 33% commission. Okay, so 2/3 base salary, 1/3 commission. What's your mix? And how does that compare? I mean, some organizations pay 80-20, and we'll get into that in a bit more. Some might pay 50-50. Okay, so this report is a lot of great information that you can use, and you should consider joining CPSA if you're not already a member, and you can look at this report. So let me go back to the PowerPoint. There we go. So we talked about sales plus commission. Most common, you probably already know about it. You're probably on it already. So, all right, commission only. Who's on commission only? Pros. Competitive salespeople with proven track records may enjoy the higher risk, higher reward environment. Cons. When we talked about the lows, when you're not selling something in a particular period and the paycheck comes out and there's no commissions or very little commissions, that is even amplified when it's commission only, because you don't sell anything in the period, there's zero commission. And that's kind of hard to pay the landlord or the mortgage or the car payment and the rest of it. So commission only, it's probably best used if there's a lot of transactions in the period, right? So if you have long sales cycles where you have to meet a lot of C-suite people and it takes months and months and months to sell something, or public sector, and you get committee or different processes to go through to get a sale, maybe not be best for commission only. But if you've got several transactions every period, let's say in a month, you range between 10 units and 30 units. Well, the 10 units at least provides some commission, and you can get through the month financially. And the 30 units, well, you're out spending the money because you're already high. So if you're selling lots of units in a period like a month, then it probably works. If it's a long sales cycle, it's a bit of a challenge, okay? So again, the very simple, commission only. It's great. Some companies like it because they only pay out when you sell something. But, most people, I think these days in Canada, think that's a bit one-sided. It's too much for the company. I need something to make sure I can get through the lows, or if someone gives me a new territory and I don't have any sales reps there, I don't have any previous sales in that territory, I don't want to go commission only. I might not sell anything for months. So commission only. Okay, we're going to keep going. Profit margin. There's a few variations of this one, but your compensation is based on the profit of the whole organization. Okay, so you may get paid some base salary, and then the commissions, they say, would be, well, if we make our profit plan for the year, we'll then pay out commissions. If we don't, we won't. You'll just get base salary. So this is a bit tricky. It's probably used most on startups. Startups can't, afford to pay compensation if they don't make money. And there's a lot of variables going on. There's no history. It's all new. So you see this plan in startups used a lot. So it does promote a company culture, like the whole company's, the sales reps as well as the president and the head of the operations, they're all trying to do the same thing, right? So that's the pro. And the con is, you may have to find other ways, like a bonus. If the company makes a certain amount of profit, maybe you get a bonus as well as any commissions that are owed to you. So that's the profit margin one. And the last one is the territory volume one. It's more like a team event. I'll ask you, did you ever, in school, or university, did you ever do a group project? And was your individual mark based on the group's performance? How'd that go over, right? Did everybody work as hard as you did? Good question, right? But some organizations, they have that culture of working as a team, and it could work. Most times, sales reps like to do things themselves and be in control, okay? So this is a bit different. The compensation structure on territory volume is beneficial to sales teams that work in defined regions. Total sales for each territory is calculated at the end of the period and split among the team members. So you could have a sales rep, you could have a product support. You could have a product support. You could have a lawyer, depending on the type of deal that you're working on, and everybody gets paid as a total, right? As a team. So another example of team might be, for whatever reason, the customer you're trying to sell to has offices in, say, Calgary and Halifax, and you're the rep in Halifax, and somehow there's a rep in Calgary as well, and the customer has people in both cities, and the management says, you know what, we're going to pay the Calgary rep and the Halifax rep on the total, because it's just too hard to do it separately, and it's a team effort, so we'll pay by team. Okay, so the pros, that mean it can work as well as cooperation, and again, some territories may not be able to support the multiple reps. So that's the team one. Anybody get paid as a team? So bottom line is a bunch of different, I call them structures, a bunch of different types of sales compensation plans. And you need to consider what your plan looks like and make sure you understand it, okay? So that's just some of the basics. We're going to go through a couple of examples now. Again, now I got this report as well from the CPSA on their compensation report. And this just shows you that, I'll introduce a compensation term. You may or may not have heard it, but P25 is 25th percentile. P50 is the 50th percentile, and so forth. P75 is 75th percentile. And this says for a certain class of sales rep or account manager, the base salary, $71,000 on average in Canada at the 50th percentile, and the total compensation at $82,000. Okay, so I'm going to go to that report. Let me go to this. Yeah, so if you can go through here, if you get this report, it says the mean salary data for sales professionals in different roles in Canada. Okay, so you've got sales representative entry level, sales representative senior, key national accounts. So this is a good report, It's very focused on sales, and it's just Canada. So this can really help you when you say to yourself, am I getting paid the right amount of money for my skills and my hard work? Okay, so you can get data now to compare what you're paying, what you're getting paid today, or if another organization or a promotion in your same organization, you can compare. So I really encourage you to look at this report on the CPSA website. And then, so I'm just explaining the report a little bit. You know, if you're always overachieving, you may want to look more in the 75th percentile. If you're in, you know, it's more of a junior rep, you're still learning a lot, you may be, you know, this is going to be the median or the average, right? Okay, so it's good to have the data, right? It's good to use the report. Then you can make better decisions. I'm going to go back to presentation mode. See if I can get that. Okay, pay mix and leverage. Okay, so another couple of words. You may know them, you may not. Pay mix is really what's the mix of base salary and commission. So in my example, I've got 3 examples. Low base, in this case 25%. I just used it for easy math. I used $100,000. $25,000 annually for base salary, $75,000 for commissions when you sign your quota. So the company says if you sell whatever your quota is, let's say your quota is $1 million, if you sell $1 million, you'll get $75,000 in commissions. Okay. This one over here is 60% base salary, 40% commissions, and this is 80% salary, 20% commissions. What mix do you have on your pay plan? Think about it. And if you don't know, that's okay. You can ask. You know, sometimes sales, compensation, how you get paid, you know, it's a bit of a taboo subject. You need to talk to your manager. Go in the room, close the door, and say, hey, I have a few questions about how I'm paid. Can you help me with it? I want to make sure I fully understand it. Okay, so let's go through mix again. So 25% base salary, 75% commissions at plan. What happens after plan? If you sell more than your plan, what's your leverage? Okay, so what goes on in your organization? Do they allow you to just keep going and make more and more commissions? Can you make lots of money? You make more money than a CEO? Maybe. Or is there a cap? Someone draw a line and say, hey, you know, you can't make any more than this money. That's it. You need to ask these questions. Again, sales managers, they don't like to talk about caps. It could be buried in the fine print of your offer letter. You need to ask about caps. It's better to ask now. If you're on a calendar year at your organization, you're only 5 months through. So if you've got a lot of sales already and you've got a lot in the pipeline, you got to talk to your sales manager saying, how am I going to get paid if I do 150% of my quota? What would happen if I do 150% of my quota? So talk to them. Okay. 60-40, and let me see. I wonder what the average mix is. So again, if I go back to my CPSA, I'm just going to go right there now. I can go back onto this report, which is very detailed, and here we go. Like I said, average 67.33, right? So we know that the average is 67.33. What's yours? This probably, I have 60 on my graph, but this is by far the most common. 80-20 is probably used more for account management, right? And some people use the terms hunter and farmer. This might be more of a farmer. It's an existing account. You're new to the position or you're new to the company. You've taken over this account. Everybody tells you we've had this account since who knows when, long time ago. Don't screw it up. Go there, visit the customer, do things, sell some more stuff, but make sure you get that renewal and the refresh, right? So it could be 80% base salary. You're doing a lot of things for the customer, all kinds of things for the customer. Crazy amount of things for the customer. You're the conduit from the customer to your organization. You may not always be doing selling. Over here, it's more common for the hunter to get paid when they sell something. So they're going to sell new logo. This company has never been able to sell anything to a bank or to a government. And we've got some sales rep there that's, you know, working away, knocking on doors, meeting people, and finally they get a sale, and it's a big one. It's a whopper. So they're going to get the money. So often different kinds of people at different times in their lives, right? The hunter is a challenging one. You knock on a lot of doors, you get told no or get out a lot. Whereas over here on the account management side, they might even give you a badge to get through the door for that company. So those are the different things called pay mix, and we talked a little bit about leverage. What's the most I can make? If I have a really good year this year, how much can I make, right? Okay, so we talked about that. All right, let's keep going. We'll go back to presentation mode. Okay, commission elements. Do you know how you are paid? And I mean seriously, like, do you really know how you're paid? First question is, when are you paid? Are you paid on order? When you sign an order, you get paid? It probably has to get into the system before anybody pays anybody. So you might sign it today, but if you can't get in the system today, you're not getting paid June 15th. You're probably getting paid July 15th. You got to sign the order and get it in the system, right? Or are you paid when the product shipped? Maybe you signed the order on May 15th. Is it shipped yet? Okay, so now, if you play a role in between order and shipment, it's probably okay for the company to pay you on shipment. The company likes to pay you on shipment because then they can send an invoice and wait and start collecting and get the money to pay you. But what if it's a back office screw up? Don't those back office people always screw things up? And you're the best and you sell stuff perfectly, but somehow it always gets screwed up once you sell it. So understand how you're paid, right? So if you are paid when the product is shipped, go talk to some of those people in the back office and say, hey, is there anything that you can do to get your order in perfectly, cleanly, so it goes right through the process and it gets shipped in days instead of weeks, right? Understand how you get paid. There's a lot of things you guys are asked to do, and you know how to be successful. What are the things that you do when you wake up on Monday morning? What do you think about? You think about visiting customers, maybe cold calling, right? Submit proposals, respond to an RFP, work late to get an RFP done for a deadline, request for proposal, do demonstrations of your product or service, or bring an expert in. You do all that stuff you don't get paid for. You only get paid for the elements on your pay plan, and if the element is signing an order or shipping a product, that's what you get paid. You got to do all that work and all those steps beforehand in order to get an order in the system or a product shipped or a service delivered, right? So you have to really, really understand the elements of your pay plan. Otherwise, you might get surprised when you open up your commission statement next month and it doesn't have that sale on it. You go, where's that sale? I sold that in May, and how come I'm not getting paid? And then you find out that you get paid on shipped, not order, or you get paid or you thought it was shipped, but it wasn't shipped in the system. So you really, really should understand the elements. Okay. Second one is, what's the rate? Is it percent of revenue? That's pretty simple, pretty common, right? So you get X percent of revenue. I just use X as a number. Could be 1%, could be 2%, could be 5%, depending on your organization, your company, your industry. But if you get paid 2% of revenue, then make sure you understand the revenue, right? So that's probably not including taxes. So make sure it's before taxes. It may only be on the hardware. You may only get paid on hardware. So if you add some software or services, you may not get paid on that. You may just get paid on hardware fees. So although you think it's $100,000, you may only get paid on $90,000. So know exactly how you get paid, so there won't be any surprises. When you open up that commission statement for June, you should already know what the amount is, right? Some other examples of what the rate is: you might get a flat rate for every unit sold, maybe $100 for every unit. Regardless, that could be the way. It could be percent of revenue, it could be percent of quota, or here's one: different rates for different products. So the company says, I'll give you 2% if you sell model A, and if you sell product B, I'm going to give you 1%. Maybe that's all they can afford. Maybe that's the industry. Maybe that's just the way it works. You can't really question too much of this. It's more understanding it, right? So you need to understand it. And the comp plan, you can have all the managers talk and listen to them and all that. The comp plan is speaking to you. It's telling you what to do. It's the strategy. It's giving it to you, right? So you really need to understand the elements. I like 3 elements at the maximum. After that, it gets diluted and it's hard to focus on what you need to do to make money. And before you know it, you're out there, doing emails to customers every time they email you. You have to answer them, and you're doing more and more admin stuff and less selling. So you want to get you focused. Make sure, and you can focus yourself. Understand the elements. If you have a pay plan with 7 elements, find out the ones that are the biggest drivers. Focus on those. Okay, so you're probably writing down lots of questions. You're thinking of them, I can tell. And we're going to open up those chat lines soon, and you can type them in. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. 2 companies, ABC and XYZ. Okay, so you're a senior sales rep. You've got on ABC company, you've got a quota of $1 million. In company XYZ, you've got $500,000 for Model A and $400,000 for product B and $100,000. Well, it's $1 million too, but they've really specified it for you. They really want you to sell product A, B, and C, whereas this one is just the total, right? Commissions, very simple, and as you can tell, I'm going down the simple route here. 2.5% of revenue is the commissions plan, and overachievement, once you get past quota, an extra 1%. So it's real simple. Up to $1 million, you get 2.5%. Over $1 million, you get 3.5%. Okay? Now, XYZ, a little more complicated. You get 2% of revenue on product A, 5% of gross profit. Careful, it's not revenue. It's switched. Even though they gave you a quota in revenue, they're going to pay you on gross profit. So maybe that's easy for you to see in your whole process, but when you go between suspect, prospect, finding customers, and all the way to the contract. Maybe you see it all the way along. Maybe it's something that comes out at the end. It's a mystery, right? Maybe it's just a mystery. You don't understand it. Figure it out. Work with your sales manager. Say, how can I understand that? Product C, you might get paid $100 a unit, and then the overachievement's a bit complicated. So it's really put simple pay plan versus complicated pay plan. Which kind of pay plan do you have? And which one would you prefer? And if you're being offered one to go to a next position at this company or go to a different company, you really want to understand it, okay? Here's how I would understand it, and I would open up Excel. Like, I'd open up Excel and I'd say, what if I sell $1 million? How much money am I going to make? And then I do another column, what if I sell 1.1 million? 1.2 million? And make sure you understand it. And then go through some scenarios. If you work at XYZ company, go through some scenarios of that. What if I sell 1.1 million, but I sell 800,000 of product B, 300,000 of product A, and 0 product C? What happens? Well, you might get surprised and say, hey, I didn't know that. Excel will help you. If you don't like Excel, or if it's not your thing, get your friend or your partner or your work colleague even. Usually there's somebody in the sales team that gets Excel out, tries to figure this out. It's that exercise, and taking your pretty PowerPoint or pretty Word document called sales plan and putting it into Excel. That exercise will really help you understand your pay plan. And it'll show you the drivers and the leverage that what would happen if I sold only 800,000 out of my $1 million quota. What would happen if I sold 1.2? Or if that Whopper comes through and I get 1.6, what's going to happen? And may make all my financial dreams come true. So those are the things you need to think about, okay? All right, so 10 questions. 10 questions. So we created 10 questions, and we're going to talk a little bit about each one. First one is, besides base pay, what other benefits are negotiable? When you go to take a new position at your organization, you're going to go from junior rep to senior rep. You're going to go from enterprise sales rep to account manager. You're going to go maybe to a different organization completely. What can you negotiate at those moments? And there's only a few moments, per career, right? It doesn't happen very often. You got to seize the moment and actually, talk about it. And sometimes the sales manager presenting it may not really be that comfortable, but they're not going to bring it up. You got to bring it up. You got to talk to them. Say, okay, what are the things that come along with this base pay and this commissions plan, what else happens? Like, could we negotiate some kind of guarantee? It says, you know, hey, I'm new to the company. You're going to send me somewhere to train and get my training. Am I getting paid for that training? If so, how much? Am I just getting my base salary, my 60%? Or am I getting 100% equivalent? Because I won't be selling anything. So you should negotiate for full compensation, your base pay plus your commissions at plan for the training period. Or if you're opening up a new territory, a new province, new line of business, maybe you can negotiate that guarantee for several months, right? Say, hey, I know what I'll do. I'll take this base pay, I'll take this commission, but I want to be guaranteed at least 100% for the first 3 months or the first 6 months. Okay. What if they ask you to move into another city? Then you know what? We have you're a junior rep. You did really well, and we have a senior rep opening in another city. Would you move? And would you move just at the exact same pay plan plus, you know, I don't know, 7% increase for your base salary? That's a lot to ask, right? Even if they pay some moving expenses, that's a lot to ask. You want to maybe see if you can get a guarantee. Okay, what else? Grade or title. So if you're going to companies often have things they call grades, and it's just structures. So you could have, and titles, right? So junior sales rep, senior sales rep, account manager, large account, sales executive. Now's your chance to negotiate the highest grade and the highest title. It'll come with money. So do it, right? And the tradition might say, hey, in our organization, we've only ever promoted someone from grade 3 to grade 4. Well, ask for grade 5. Well, it can't hurt. You know, if you don't ask, you don't get. So you need to ask, right? Ask what other bonuses are available, or when the management bonus starts. Maybe it's not available for salespeople. Maybe it's available for sales managers, and maybe a select few sales executives, special super duper salespeople. Ask if there's a bonus that could go on in addition to the base pay and commissions. And of course, vacation, but you guys don't take vacation anyway, so but you could ask for vacation. Okay, that's question 1. And again, feel free to put stuff in the chat, and we'll get to those in a second. What's the outlook for salary raises or promotion, right? We were talking about, I was talking offline, we were talking about UK, and I think they often call it salary rises in the UK. I find that's interesting. Okay, so salary raises, salary rises. Again, I go back to the data, right? Data's the new oil. So here we go. Salary increase budgets for sales professionals. It's around 2.6% is the forecast, okay? So year over year, your base salary should go up 2.6%. That's the 60% part. Your commission should go up by 2.6% as well. Look, all these non-sales professionals, they get 2.6% on the whole thing. So you should be expecting, talk to your sales manager, ask them about it. Hey, I think the average Canadian sales professional is getting 2.6% increase in their both their base salary and commission. After a great year I had just like last year, what should I be expecting this year? Or in advance, I'm having a pretty good year. It's only May. I'm going to do over my quota. What kind of increase in my base salary and my commission plan will I be up for next year? Of course, sometimes they'll say, I don't know, or HR does that, or they'll say whatever. But you got to plant the seed, right? You got to make yourself known. You got to talk about compensation. If you don't, no one else will. And the compensation never really goes up over your expectations. It usually only goes down. Okay, so, and then there's, the next page says, promotion increase trends for sales professionals. So on average, 6.7%. So if you're getting promoted from junior rep to senior rep, or grade 3 to grade 4, you should expect on average 6.7%. What's your company do? Right? They may just say, oh, automatically we got a grid and it's 4%. Well, you know, you can pull out this report and say, hey, like in Canada, it's 6.7. What else can you do? Now's your chance to negotiate. You've just been promoted from grade 3 to grade 4 with this offer letter in front of you that's not signed. You can negotiate that. Talk about it, because you won't go to grade 5 for like 2 more years, 4 more years, maybe never. So now's your chance. You can't talk about it tomorrow after you sign the letter. It's all done. So negotiate. Okay, we're going back to this questions. Question 3. What metrics do you use to evaluate your employee success? So again, you can go back and when you talk about the comp plan, you say, hey, I heard the president talk all about customer satisfaction. I don't see it on my comp plan. Can you help me understand that? Just a question, right? Or I heard the president say we're launching a new product, and how can I be involved in that? It sounds exciting. So what are the things going on in the company, and how can you help with success and get yourself commissioned? How long is the typical onboarding and training period? That's a good question to ask, right? It's going to vary. It's going to be, if you're a seasoned salesperson, you're not going to need much training on sales. You need training on product and service that the organization sells, right? That's what you need on. Ask how long. Is it typical just to have a 4-hour webinar, or you have to go to Toronto or Vancouver for 2 weeks? How long does it take? Because that's going to affect your ability. If you try and negotiate a guarantee and they don't give it to you, you've got to live on that base salary until you start selling something. So you've got to be able to get through that period, right? Do you offer performance bonuses? Some companies offer bonuses in addition to commission. You could ask that question, right? Particularly if you're going into a new quote-unquote risky assignment, right? What if how'd you guys come up with this quota? I don't know. We've always had $1 million quota for product A, but this product B is a brand new product. We've never sold it before. We want you to launch it. You're a super salesperson. Okay, what's my quota? $1 million. Why? How'd you get that? We haven't sold one yet. What happens if I only sell 500,000 and that's deemed to be successful? Is there a bonus? Or if it's a long sales cycle, what if I get, we have nothing in the pipeline right now. What if I get 10 deals that are qualified in the pipeline, but by the end of this month, but I don't actually sell anything? Do I get a bonus? Okay, 10 questions to ask. We're halfway through. Let's go to the next one. What's your commission pay structure? We talked about that. Base salary. If it's a low base salary, lower than you like, can you negotiate a higher salary with less commissions? They might say they only have one commission plan. Ask them to see if they have two. Make a second one. Is the quota? We kind of covered that. How's it determined? This is a good one. You may go to some company and then the perception is that the salespeople are always over plan. Well, that may mean you get extra bonuses for being overachieving and overachieving your commissions, maybe. Or maybe the people haven't been over plan in 5 years. The quotas are too high. Keep that in mind as you calculate how much money you think you're going to make. What point is sale credited to a rep? Is it an order, install, maybe 30 days waiting period after the install or the delivery of the service? Timing is going to be critical here. You're going to start for this organization June 1st. When are you actually going to get paid? Okay, does the contract include a clawback clause? Oh, nobody likes those. So you sell something today, everybody's happy, they ring the bell, you get a commission check in June, and the customer goes bankrupt in August, or they send it, the solution doesn't work. They told you it would work, doesn't work. So they have to send it back. Your commissions, you get negative commissions. Ooh, so that puts the risk on you, not the company. Some companies will take the risk themselves. So these details you need to ask, because no one likes to tell you that. That's all negative. They only like to tell you positives, right? If you sell $1 million, you're going to buy a BMW. Now, I've got a BMW. You can have one too. Just do what I did, right? So that's what they're going to say. So read the fine print, right, and negotiate. And we talked a little bit before, the thresholds or caps. Like, you don't really want to cap. You want to keep going. They're not going to tell you about it. It's going to be buried in the fine print. And that's good. Okay, so hopefully you've realized that compensation and your compensation is very, very important. There's different compensation plans out there. Sometimes different plans within your own organization. Certainly different plans for different roles in your organization, and different comp plans for different organizations and industries. So I hope you enjoyed what we talked about so far. We're going to open up for questions. You can just go to chat and type in your question. I'm not sure if we've had any questions yet. We'll just check here.
So feel free to use either the chat function or the question function. Either way, they will get to us and we can start answering. We have about 15 minutes. There we are, okay. So David.
Yes.
What if I sell something outside my territory?
Yeah, good question. So again, it's good to know the rules in your organization. And the example would be if you're selling away in Calgary, let's say, and some of the company has an office in Edmonton as well, and some of that sale, let's say it's a $100,000 sale, 80,000 is going to Calgary and 20,000 is going up to Edmonton. Do you get paid on the stuff to go into Edmonton? It's a really good question to ask, right? You know, you don't have to ask all these questions when you try to sign an offer letter, but as you get involved in a sales cycle at the beginning, sales manager is going to say, how much is that sale? $100,000. You might, it's very good of you and very fair of you to say, how much of that revenue do I get paid on? Do I get paid on all of it? Because I found the deal, I'm working the deal, I'm doing all the hard work. Or do we have to give that person up there in Edmonton, do we have to give them 20,000, their commissions on 20,000 revenue? Or is it somehow split in some way, shape, or form? Maybe because you found it, you get a finder's fee, maybe you get 50% and the Edmonton person gets 50%. And then, all those rules never seem fair to you because you seem to do all the work and you know the customer and the customer is buying it in Calgary as my example. But it's a really good question to ask.
Next one here. Who gets paid for transactions started by my predecessor?
Yeah, so we said there's 10 questions, so this is some bonus questions now. So that's a good question. So the predecessor signed the agreement, or maybe the predecessor worked on the RFP and the RFP was awarded to your organization. They've left and gone to another role or another company. You walk in and you've got to do a bunch of work to get them from RFP award to contracting. Or they signed the order before you got there and you got to do a lot of work to finalize the solution and get into the operations of the company and get it implemented. Who gets paid? Good question to ask. You're going to assume you're going to get paid. You're going to assume you're going to get paid for all of it. But maybe they haven't really told you that you're only going to get paid 50% because they promised 50% to the previous person, right? So it's a very good question to ask. It is a bit taboo. Sometimes you might say to yourself, well, if I don't ask, I don't want to bring it up because then they'll just pay me 100%. No, that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to be disappointed and surprised when you open up your commission statement and they say, oh yeah, that's a common rule here at our organization that this is how things are done. So I think it's good to ask all along. I think taking your fancy pay plan with all the bells and whistles and promises on Word or PowerPoint and putting it into Excel and showing it to your sales manager is a good way to understand your pay plan.
Another good one here. Is it common for sales members to be paid mostly by base pay with a bonus at the end of the year?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, depending on the industry, you get a bonus at the end of the year. It's a bit challenging through the year to get motivated. Like it's cold in February, so how are you going to get out and go do cold calling when you don't get a bonus until the end of the year? And the bonus is based on what you do March, April, May, June, the rest of it. So, but you can use self-discipline and say, okay, I'm going to do this, break up my year. I've got to sell $1 million. I want to get over plan. I want to sell 1.2, and I want to go to the President's Club trip or whatever. So I got to do 100,000 a month. So I can if I break it down into pieces, I will get this much bonus. I'll have earned this much bonus if I do really well in January. I'll earn this much bonus in February. I won't get it paid till the end of the year, but I've got to self-discipline myself to keep myself motivated throughout the year. Like I said, it is an option for some companies and some organizations, but if you go back to the CPSA, the recent study with Mercer, the average is 67% base and 33% commissions. Good question.
Another good one here. How do you approach HR managers when they diminish, lower, or change to the negative bonus/compensation program after years of a good, reasonable bonus program?
Yeah, those HR people, they don't really knock on your door and say, here's more. They're usually doing some kind of takeaway and they're trying to justify it for some reason. It's a tough tough in the industry, things have changed or whatever. I think you have to just listen and go back to them saying, you know, here's my view. You know, my base salary's been 60,000, and my commissions, instead of being 40,000, I've averaged about 70,000 because I'm a super rep and I've done over plan all the time. So I got 60 base and I've been averaging 70. I had that one bad year, whatever. So my bonus or whatever benefits that you're trying to take away, my total package is this much money. And now you're trying to take some away, and something doesn't feel right. So you got to break it down so they can see it your way. You know, some of the things we talked about today: compensation mix, compensation leverage, percentiles. That's what, you know, these HR people talk about too. So it's good to talk in their language. It'll often in an organization be us versus them, and you as the sales rep. Today's all about your compensation plan. So you've got to turn that into almost a sales cycle. Say, hey, instead of us versus them, I'm going to say, here's what I see. You're saying to me that this is, quote, fair. What am I missing? I want to work with you together. And maybe it's an opportunity to negotiate a higher grade. Maybe it's an opportunity to negotiate more base salary. Maybe it's an opportunity to here's a cheap one that you can ask for. Say, hey, if I get to 120% of plan, I get this much money. What if I get to 130? Can I get an extra bonus? I need a way to earn back what you just took away. And that would be cheap for the company to say, well, this person's never going to get over 120%. They've never been over 110. So let's give them some carrot at 130. Well, why not? You got to try something, right? But yeah, it's a tricky discussion with HR because they're often just taking stuff away.
Another good question or conversation to have here. I've worked for companies who pay vacation pay on commissions and some who don't.
Yeah.
It's my understanding from the Employment Act that vacation pay is to be paid on commissions.
Yeah.
How can we approach a company on that topic?
Yeah, well, very good question. The experts that lead the Ontario, where it is a provincial, I'll just talk about Ontario because I'm in Toronto, but it is a provincial jurisdiction on vacation pay. There's different ways you can read it. So some companies won't pay the 4% on top of commissions, some do. Some will do it only after you hit 100%, they'll pay the 4%. But like we said at the beginning of this, the title list is 10 questions you can ask. You should ask that right at the beginning. I think it says a lot about the company, right? Because if you're a professional, let's say you're an accountant or a lawyer or marketing person or whatever, you're going to get paid a salary and you're going to get a certain amount of vacation days. Let's say you get 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever you get. That's it. But as a sales rep, you don't get that salary. You don't get that guarantee. You get the 67 and 33. So they should pay I think they should pay the 4% on the commissions myself. But it tells you a lot about the company when they don't.
Another one here. Is it common for companies to draw back on commission or bonuses during the year due to poor overall company performance, even if the salesperson is well ahead of target?
Yeah. Well, I'd say hopefully in established organizations, people don't do that. That is just a no-no. I think the company has to take that risk. It's similar to my pay plan example, ABC and XYZ. As a company, I'd love to sell product B and C. Maybe that's where all the money is. But I might sell product B and C in territory 5 and 7 and 10, but other territories may be selling more product A. So I think I got to make it simple for everybody and just say, hey guys, your quota's $1 million. I'm going to give you training on all 3 products. You got to go sell it. You got to take the risk. And I got to live with that risk for the whole year. It can happen occasionally where you say, look, okay, sorry, we're going to have to, second half of the year, we're going to have to cut the commission rate from 2% to 1% for this reason, right? We made a mistake, or the industry's gone down, or something's happened. But it's a tough one to swallow as a sales rep, especially because sales reps are always full of what's in the pipeline, right? What happened yesterday is already coming into the bank and going to pay off some line of credit or something. So it's the hope, and to take that hope away, I think the company has to live with the ups and downs. Now, similarly, it's challenging next year when they come out in January 1st and say, hey, next year we're paying you 1% instead of 2%. But at least you know, right? Taking it halfway through the year just seems a bit cruel because some cycles are long, and you could have spent 6 months working Saturdays late, all the rest of it in anticipation. So that it can happen, but it's the companies, you'll see on all pay plans, the company can change things at their discretion, right? So then you need to decide if you're going to stay or not, right? That's the tricky one. But when you read all that fine print, you won't like it, and you probably glance over it. But when they do something, you'll go back and read it, and you say, geez, there it is. It says they can do whatever they want. That.
How do you address unreasonable targets not in sync with your market average, i.e. 16% target versus market average of 5%? That's a great question.
Yeah, very good question. You could, one thing you could do is negotiate your pay plan to be percent of revenue if it is percent of quota. Let's say you get $1,000 for every percent of quota or something. Maybe you just turn that around and say, hey, you know what, I want to get 2% of revenue, no matter what I sell. I mean, your quotas are interesting. I think, I could sell, your quota's $1 million, I could sell 500,000 or 1.5. Who knows? It's a new industry. I don't know where you get the $1 million from. You never sold more than 500,000. But, you could turn it into more of what we call a production-based, not a quota-based. So whatever you produce, whatever you sell, you get paid on. You might have that opportunity at the beginning of the year when you receive your pay plan and you have all these questions about quota. But they're tough. The company will establish the quota, and I guess the other thing you could do is, again, talk about it. So work with your sales manager. Say, hey, sales manager, my quota this year is $1 million. It's now, November, and you know how hard I've been working, and I'm going to end up at 600,000. I'm anticipating from you that my quota next year is going to be 500,000 or 600,000. It's not going to be $1 million again. We've been through that. We've done that. Didn't work. So, but a lot of people won't do it. They'll just sit there and wait, and hopefully that the management will come up and say, hey, it's January 1st and your quota is 500,000 this year, not $1 million. Well, you watch it, and next year it'll be $1 million again. But people, managers and HR people, they will listen. They will take input. They may not always decide in your favor, but if you don't say anything, they're probably going to be off doing something else. So I would encourage you to talk about it. Talk about it with your manager.
Another great one. I've got a bonus program in which 5 components must be achieved before any bonus payout, including company gross margin dollars and percentage. Yeah. You mentioned any more than 3 components indicate an effective plan. Yeah. Are more companies trending towards a 4+ bonus qualifier?
I mean, you could, if you're the owner and you've got a board of directors, they're asking you to do all kinds of stuff, right? Grow revenue, make the stock price go up. Cash, they'll talk about that. Inventory, keep it low, but keep your customers happy. Ship within 1 day. Some of these things they're all great ideas. But you got to bring it down to key performance indicators. I mean, I read that book, you guys did too probably, on Steve Jobs a few years ago. And he said, okay, you guys all have great ideas. We're going in the room. We're going to pick 3. We're only going to do 3. We're only going to do 3 ideas. We just don't have the human capability to do more. We can't focus. Throw the word focus out the window when you start getting 4 or 5, whatever, projects or elements to a bonus plan or commission elements. It waters it all down. You could do great in one area and not get the bonus because you missed what you consider out of your control or small item. Now, the company may think of it as a big item, but the companies will go back and forth on this. They'll hire Mercer or they'll hire an independent like me, and we'll tell them all the benefits of simplicity. And you get 9 VPs. Well, that's nice, but you have only 3 elements. I don't care if some of those VPs won't have any elements in the bonus or any elements in the compensation. They're important functions to have in a company. We're just not going to put them, they're not key, right? So they're going to get us in there. We're going to have simplified bonus, simplified commissions, and then there's going to be a 10th VP, and somehow they're going to convince somebody to put their element, line of business, whatever it is, as an element for commissions and bonus. And before you know it, you get 5. So yeah, I feel for you. It's a tricky discussion. All you can do is talk about it and share it, show how you feel, and decide, you know, am I going to stay with this organization that does this kind of stuff, or am I going to look for somewhere else? And if I look somewhere else, what am I looking for? You know, individual pay, company pay that's based on the company's overall performance? Good question.
Very good question. Thank you.
And I think that's why I was just saying, this is really the point of this whole seminar, is to ask questions, right? Ask questions of yourself, ask questions of your organization, ask questions of your next role in your organization. Maybe you're trying to become a sales manager. How do they get paid? You can ask. Maybe you're trying to be an account manager instead of a junior rep. You should ask, how are account managers compensated? You're going to be told all kinds of great things. All these fancy people are in those roles now, and they're good and that, and you want to be one of those. That's the best way to progress in this company. Great. That's all good. Take it all in. Ask how you get paid. A lot of people don't. They assume they get paid a lot of money. Everybody thinks their manager gets paid $1 gazillion more. Well, you can ask. You can ask. So that's the point of today is, you know, you want to ask questions of yourself, ask questions of your organization, your next role in your organization, and any or other organization you're considering leaving and going to.
I've got a couple of questions. A couple of people asking about the CPSA compensation report for sales professionals.
Yeah.
This is available for CPSA members only. If you go to our homepage, scroll over to Success Tools and scroll down to compensation reports, you'll see that the 2017 compensation report for sales professionals, as well as the compensation planning guide for sales management, are both available. If you'd like to refer to the 2016 report, that is archived and available as well at the bottom of the screen. But these reports are presented in a online zine format. So you're not able to download them. You can view them. They aren't downloadable for circulation purposes. So please feel free, if you are a member, to like David has here on the screen, access them at the compensation reports area of Success Tools, and you'll see all of the reports on compensation there. Please do consider becoming a member if you find the compensation reports data on 25 job titles to be beneficial or of value to you as a sales professional. Feel free to join us. And of course, thank you so much to everybody on behalf of the CPSA, and thanks of course David and our audience for attending today's webinar. Should you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact us at salessuccess@cpsa.com. For those of you who would like a video recording of this webinar, please stay tuned. It will be emailed to you shortly. Thank you so much for this great feedback. And David, thanks again for a great one.
Yeah, good luck, good selling.